I don't know if you've been paying much attention to all of this AI world that's happening with the writer strike and
Oh my
now
goodness.
the artists going in. It's interesting to see that whole concept of, we've been talking about, is our creative writing going to be replaced or at least partially replaced with artificial intelligence writing? And it's one thing to talk about it. It's interesting to me to see how that's going to play out in terms of, I both agree that it is important to protect the rights and the payment, the ability to make money from our creative writers. And at the same time, it's weird to ask a bunch of studios and organizations that don't know what the future is to sign into something that says you can't have some shows that are written that way and
Hmm.
some shows that aren't. And something like it would be a hard stance to win. And I don't, where's Ryan when I need legal advice? But it's an interesting situation to me because I want them to win, but I don't know how they'll feasibly come to that compromise.
And I don't know either. And I think, and we're seeing this not just in television and movies, right? Like currently, Universal's entered an agreement with an AI with a company that makes AI music,
Yeah.
right?
For the
And
soundscapes, right?
yes, exactly. And so this is something has far reach that reaches far across not just visual mediums, but music as well. And there is this weird thing where I'm with you. I want to protect these writers. I want to make sure that they are taken care of. But this at the same time, how do you say you can't use a tool? I think that I wonder if as this shifts that you're going to see more of a premium put on editing and less on the initial writing, and that editing is where you make the big bucks.
Well, and that's what I wasn't really thinking about until the writer's strike. That's one of the things
Right.
that's actually brought up in their case, which made me go, is they're saying what they don't want to become is paid editors for
Yeah.
artificial intelligence, because they're saying they see that too. Hey, look, somebody's going to come to us with a treatment and say, here's what this episode's going to be about. Can you clean up this script? And they're like, I want to be writing this. I don't want to be your professional editor of art. I'm not there to clean up artificial intelligence's work. I'm there to create my work. And I can see that. And
I
I think that that's terrible for them. And that could be a future that they see ahead of them. Not, oh, it's going to replace me, but rather it's redefining my job to a job I don't want.
let's play devil. Can I play devil's advocate? I'm a lawyer too.
Please, please.
Is that not oftentimes the goal of technology and of tools to allow you to do something to do something more efficiently so that you can make the overall product better? I don't love the idea, but to
But I'm
me
torn. Yeah.
it feels almost inevitable. It feels like we're walking towards this this time, and maybe we're walking in it now, where those initial drafts, it is almost irresponsible to do it entirely from scratch. I mean, in my lawyer days, I wish back when I practiced law I had this to draft initial contracts. I mean, Ryan and I have played around with
Oh,
just drafting
yeah.
entertainment contracts. Not that we had used them, but like to
But it's a
get a
great
rough
tool.
but to get a rough starting spot, like
Hmm.
it would be irresponsible not to do that. And I
And to be
I
clear, they
worry
do
about these
say
people.
that. They don't say you can't use it at all. They're
Hmm.
saying if it's a tool, they get into writer's credits, blah, blah, blah. And I know I'm
Right.
specifically talking on that front right now in terms of the Writers Guild, but that's, it's the precedent that gets set by whatever this settles out to be is going to bleed into the other industries. It's going to affect how we see the writing of a lot of things. And so I'm keeping an eye on it uh, because it fascinates me, but also because it's interesting. But they're saying they are okay with it being used as a tool, but they don't want it to be the initial creation. It needs to be credited very much like any other research. A producer printing up a Wikipedia page and saying, hey, this is something that happened. Can you write an episode on it? Can't be treated any differently than AI spitting out information and saying, hey, work on this.
Yeah.
And so I don't know.
I mean, we're seeing these conversations. In fact, you sent me an article not just earlier today about what's going on currently in the European Parliament. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
they are wrestling with this on on a scale that's larger than what we're talking about now. And as I look at what's going on around the world, sometimes it's hard for me to make heads or tails over what is actually best for the world and for creators.
Yeah.
Because the EU is really fighting with it. If you look at any of the legislative history of what they're dealing with right now, it is bonkers.
And they're doing the paperwork. And again, once the precedents are set, like this is all uncharted ground. And now I feel like we're all these naysayers. Roar, this is so terrible. But I see the pro on the other side too. Like you said, when there's this kind of progress with technology, it does take people out of the loop or redefine roles. God, please don't put writers in the same category as trash collectors, but I'm going there. So I think of trash collectors because we had people lifting up trash cans and dumping them into the bins, and they had to be a certain weight. And they went, wait, we can make a machine that picks it up and dumps the trash. And there were a bunch of people who went, do you know how many people you're taking out of work? They don't do that anymore. 3 people used to have to go on every truck, and now one guy drives a truck and picks it all up. And again, I don't want to put any kind of creative field in that, but they are kind of in some ways treating them like that, where they're just like a machine can replace what you do. And it's a strong fight for you can't replace the creative thinking process. You can even go side by side with it, but you can't replace it. And then at the same time, I go on the other side from a studio's perspective, from Sony, who said, we'll make a deal that you can use AI created things for X and such. It is something that's its own thing. And I think it's also dangerous to say Disney and Universal and Paramount and Fox are never going to have anything entirely written by AI, because that's something they won't be allowed to explore if they agree to that complete thing. And then you get pop up other organizations that aren't members of these guilds and unions, and now they can't compete with what the market may be in the future. And so it's hard for me to, I don't know.
Well, I mean, and this is the thing, is I know how I personally feel about this, and I side very much with, I would assume most of our listenership, that we want to make sure we value the creative. So I keep trying to devil's advocate myself. And I got to thinking to an episode that you, Ryan, and I did maybe 18 months ago, maybe 2, I don't know. And it was, wow, Hollywood is just recycling the same 5 movies over and over and over. And I'm sitting there today thinking about this going, wow, is AI how we break that cycle? Will people finally be willing to take risks if it's the new hot technology? And haven't we dealt with automation for as long as capitalism has pushed toward in this direction? I mean, is maybe the machine that we're fighting isn't AI, maybe it's capitalism. And these are these giant things that as an artist I'm grappling with, and I'm like, I don't know how to combat it. I really don't.
And that's where I'm torn. I see pros, I see cons, but more importantly, I see a changing world, which we're always a part of, but we're watching this change in the world, and I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm not in the position that a lot of people are, where it's my current right now, today, bread and butter. This is scaring me, and or this is my opportunity to make my name in a new way by harnessing this power. I'm feel like a bystander. I'm standing here going I don't know, but it's like a train wreck. I can't stop watching.
Well, and I think one thing, and I've said this on the podcast a few times, I think in the age of AI as tied to music, this is where live bands have the opportunity to really make their place. And I actually want to talk to Andy about this, because if you have not seen Andy's band, they are a live powerhouse.
Yeah.
Right. And so they can attract fans in a way that AI just simply cannot.
They don't bring music. They bring an energy.
It's ridiculous. And so I would be curious to hear what his thought is, because he's a active touring musician who puts on a heck of a live show. And so maybe he, kind of like me, secretly goes, maybe this AI thing is a good way to make live music more important again after the pandemic, where it sort of got pushed into the basements and into the living rooms for house concerts and things like that. Maybe now it's time to get it back out, main stage, big shows again. Andy, be ready for that backstage, dude, because I'm going to ask you about that.
I think I think from an actor's point of view as well, and that's because that's kind of where my brain goes. And as they're bringing in the possibility of a SAG and an AFTRA strike going with it, and my brain is like, whoa, the performance unions used to have like a no strike clause. Because as a performer, as somebody who has majority of my life taken the words of someone else and turned them into real life by creating a character around it and creating an environment around it. The opportunity to take things entirely written by AI and see how human we can make them feel is also very interesting to me. Like when I thought about, well, what if the entire TV show was written by it? Like, it might be god awful. But is that an opportunity? I want to say I don't ever want the opportunity to work on projects that are not written by human beings. Like, I might want to see how that goes.
It might be interesting.
It might be fun to play. And I'm not saying that should take over anything. And I'm not saying that. I honestly think that what is brought by creators and the energy we talked about, Frasco and them, that the energy that is brought from people who bring of themselves to a space is something that can't be duplicated. You can read, you can listen, you can hear things, but you can't feel. And we learned that in the pandemic. When you put musicians in a room with their audience, when people communally laugh, when you feel the energy of somebody holding back, crying, sitting next to you that you've never met before, that's something we can't duplicate yet. And so, like you said, live is a huge thing. And I see the tool that is AI supplementing what can happen live. But it's scary to think of the work that confuses us and then we get thrown off our guard. I don't know.
Well, and a shameless plug. That's why when my band Dear Marcia hosts the Women Who Rock the Rockies annual event, I mean, we're trying to pull together as many live powerhouses as we can to make a communal experience for people who want to appreciate female-fronted bands in the United States or anywhere in the world. We haven't had an international act yet, but I mean, that's what we're, again, shameless plug. That's what we're trying to do here, in June. So I don't know. I'm really interested to talk to Andy about this, but Lauren, can I shift you to pop culture for a moment?
Please, because if you let me go down the AI rabbit hole, I don't know if I can dig myself back out.